Make a decision when you are mad, you get exactly the reverse result of what you want. Every one of us of a certain age, forget about politics, can remember a few decisions we made in life when we were mad. It turned out to be mistakes. It's about an 80% chance you'll make a mistake unless you take a deep breath and channel your anger in a positive direction. So that's the first thing I want to say. Then I like to see all these young people here. There are a lot of young people who voted for the first time either in 2006 and 2008 who say, oh, I'm not going to vote this time. Either I'm discouraged that everything's not all right, or I just don't get it. I don't know what's in. I showed up, I elected Barack Obama, what else do I have to do? They don't understand. And so I want to say to you, if you think you can stay home and not have a disastrous effect on your own future, you got another thing coming. Yesterday, I was in Philadelphia at a rally in an old neighborhood of Philadelphia where I went in 1992. And the crowd was probably, it was a very diverse crowd. There were whites, African Americans, Hispanics, people from the Middle East, people from Croatia and Serbia. I mean, it was modern America. But one lady was holding a sign that said, if you thought you created a whole new world when you elected the president in 2008, think again and vote again. And why do I say that? You're angry, and you got to find the people who are apathetic. And I'm going to try to give you some reasons. I also think we got one other problem. We got a little amnesia in our electorate. We've forgotten what happened. A very wise man once said, those who forget the past are condemned to repeat it. So here's what I want to say. First, I hope I have some credibility on the things you're worried about. On jobs, the economy, incomes, and budget deficits. I say that not because I want the applause, but because what people have done in the past is a good predictor of what they'll do in the future. There's this sort of subtle thing a lot of our friends in the Republican Party are trying to do, saying, well, all these problems that we had, they just belong to George Bush. They don't have anything to do with the real Republicans. And what I want you to know is, that's a bum rap. George Bush is an actual liberal compared to some of the people they've nominated around America this year. And it isn't fair to blame him. He was a faithful proponent of the ideas that they have all espoused for 30 years. This is about different ideas. Now, you just think about how differently we treat politics and economics from stuff that's really important to us, like football. Now, really, Ohio State wins a great victory Saturday, right? And you win year in and year out. And so, what's the first thing that the coach did and the coaching staff after this really impressive victory over a very good football team? What did they do? They looked at the game film, right? To see what they could do better and what they did well. And what's the second thing they did? They looked at the last game film of their opponent next week to see what their strengths and weaknesses were. Then they analyzed the problem and they tried to figure out how to win the next game. In other words, they were thinking based on the evidence. That's why we admire people in the United States military. Whatever your opinion is about our effort in Afghanistan, nobody doubts that our military courageously tries to look at what is going on. They try to figure out how... They try to figure out what the Al-Qaeda and the Taliban are doing and how to counter it. And they try to figure out how those Afghan villagers that are caught in the middle look at it and what works and what doesn't. They've even been willing to undergo some greater risk to their own lives to avoid killing civilians to try to build more support over the long run. Why? Because they're always thinking and they're always looking at the evidence. But when it comes to politics and economics, the other side always asks us to forget about the evidence. This is just about assertions. It's just about what you believe, what you feel. Vote on your anger. Don't think. It doesn't matter. The facts don't matter. Well, let me tell you something, folks. I spent a lifetime doing this. The facts matter every single time in everything you do. So, looks to me like, just listening, this is their argument in every race, even in the state races, like the race for governor. We gave the Democrats control of the government 2 years ago, after we had it for a long time, and they found a $3 trillion hole in the economy. A lot of it materialized after this financial meltdown, but don't forget what it was like before. We lost jobs every month in 2008 before the financial meltdown. Before the financial meltdown, they had produced 2.5 million jobs compared to 22.7 million jobs when I was president. Before the financial meltdown, healthcare costs had doubled after inflation. College costs gone up 75% after inflation. Average income down $2,000 a family after inflation before the meltdown. Then we lost 7.5 million jobs. So their argument seems to be, we had the ball for 8 years. We left a $3 trillion hole. They didn't dig out in 21 months, put us back in. You're mad. The only way you can express you're mad is to vote for us. And see us, we're really concerned about all this spending and deficits. Oh my goodness. Give me a break, folks. You remember, the older ones here, at least will remember, when I was elected in '92, the Republicans have been in for 12 years. Okay?
Right.
In 12 years, they quadrupled the debt of the country from $1 to $4 trillion and produced 30% fewer jobs in 12 years than we did in 8. And moved only 1% as many people from poverty into the middle class. Most important statistic of my presidency. Moved 100 times as many people from poverty to the middle class in the previous 12 years. So then I got out, and for the first time since their revolution began in 1980, they finally had the White House and the Congress, and they could do it all. That old proverb, life's greatest curse can be answered prayers. So we had 2.5 million jobs, and the debt of the country was double before the meltdown. Then they're blaming the Democrats for TARP, but that passed under the previous president, the financial bailout. Now I have to tell you, I don't agree with this blaming. There's a reason President Obama and Senator McCain voted for that thing in the middle of a presidential election. They'd have rather had root canal with no anesthesia than vote for that. They did it because they knew if they let the financial system melt down, Main Street would be hurt. It wasn't about Wall Street then, it was about Main Street. You had the biggest car dealer in America stop financing new cars. We were almost at the point where people in Little Rock, my hometown, couldn't go down to Sears and finance a refrigerator on credit, no matter how much money they had in the bank. I'm telling you, so it happened. But to hear them tell it, you know, the Democrats have just gone crazy with big spending and they didn't get us out of this hole. They spent too much, we're not out of the hole, throw them out, put us in. Now, I think, and the Democrats in Washington are saying back, in so many words, a message that I sort of agree with. We're not out of the hole yet. We understand why you're mad. We're mad too, but at least we quit digging. And the first rule when you get in the hole is quit digging. And we can build our way out of it. Give us 2 more years. Give us a chance to prove that what we're doing will work. If it doesn't work, you can throw us all out in 2 years. But for goodness sakes, don't bring the shovel brigade back. We have quit digging. And so, here's what I want to say. let's pretend it's not an election year, and we're just sitting here thinking like a bunch of friends, what are we going to do? Let's pretend there's no election. We don't have to get everybody excited. What are we going to do? There's too many people out of work, too many people with no incomes, too many people can't pay their bills, too many people with homes worth less than their mortgages. What are we going to do? Here's my list. The first thing we have to do is to create more jobs, and in order to do that, we have to know where the jobs are going to be created. The most likely candidates are small business, manufacturing, and clean energy. Those are the most likely candidates to bring back jobs. Okay. Then you got to say, well, if we can't have any more stimulus because we're